My name is Pete Hottelet. I am the founder of Omni Consumer Products. We make licensed products from television and movies. I'm also working on the giant bronze statue of RoboCop in Detroit. And I frequently find myself buying Viking helmets for babies because they usually know what to do with them. So our topic today is the importance of branding and how that relates to online commerce when we have payment systems and search and discovery and all these things sort of coming together and what that means. So, I guess a good place to start is what exactly is branding? Like what's in a name? Many of you are familiar with Apple Computer, obviously. Some of you may be familiar with Foxconn. Many of you have probably not heard of it, but it's giant. Foxconn employs probably 920,000 people in China. And what do, you ask? Well, they make Apple's products, and they make Dell's products, and they make HP's products, and they make pretty much everybody that you can think of. They probably do some manufacturing for them. Toshiba, does anybody even own a Toshiba? No? Yeah, it's not at the top of my list either. But yeah, so that is, in a nutshell, what the importance of branding is you've all heard of Apple. Foxconn does all the work. But, Apple walks away with, all the mind share and all the awareness and all these things. People know what Apple is. Nobody knows what Foxconn is. And that's really what's important here in this context. There's a lot of things that go into branding and building a brand. Things like quality, awareness, loyalty, associations, and all of these build up a sense of uniqueness within the customer's mind. So perceived quality or quality would be that people feel like the product is made with good components. It functions as advertised, so as opposed to other computers that might crash a lot or do crash a lot, or if you've owned a BlackBerry, you've gone down that trail of tears, and we're not going to talk about it. The packaging is attractive and functional, so it looks nicer or is presented nicer or it has nicer frosting on the cake. And it lasts a while. It's not going to crap out on you after, you use it 2 or 3 times. You can drop it a whole bunch of times in an elevator and nobody cares. Awareness. Lots of people talk about raising awareness for lots of things. But really what awareness is when you think of a product, is the brand that you're thinking of first. Is that the one that people think of first when they think of a category? So when you think of cars, the first brand that you think of. The second item would be whether or not people know off the top of their head what the brand logo and what the name looks like. So everybody knows what Ford looks like. You can think of it. It's the blue oval with so-and-so, McDonald's, all these things. They're pretty much household names. Starbucks recently did a rebrand to simplify theirs even further down to just the mermaid in the center. They enlarged that, and now that's their entire logo. So it was iconic before. It's even more iconic now. And it's also important that people recognize the brand when they see it amongst other brands. So, when you go to a Ford dealership, it's all Fords. There's no surprises. You're in a parking lot, being able to pick out that car from all of the other cars. This is often why you see a lot of car companies doing sort of a similar look or a standard look across all their models. So Mercedes is really good at this. BMW has, the famous kidney-shaped grille on the front. And having all of their cars with a similar mark on the front similar styling, cues, really helps people pick out their cars amongst a field of, similar looking vehicles. They're like, oh, that X5 is a BMW. I can tell because, the front looks the same as the 3 Series and the 5 Series and the 7 Series. And then there's loyalty. And this sort of plays off of awareness in that maybe something's the first thing that you think of in that brand category. But then also that leads to purchase. Because if it's the first thing that you think of in a category, it also presumably has positive attributes and is the first thing that you'll purchase in a category. If you feel that strongly about a product, you're that familiar with it, oftentimes you'll tell your friends about it, you'll tell your family about it, how great this thing is that you bought, all of the great things that it does for you, how well it performs. And you'll talk about it because it's something that is hopefully working out for you. There's also sort of the negative side of that, which is a lot of times people rationalize something that they've spent a lot of money on and it sucks, and they talk about it anyway. But I mean, loyalty is basically that you're pretty much happy with your purchase. You like most of the things about the product, and you would buy it again. You think of it when the topic comes up. And finally, we have associations. And so this would be like if you're buying a Volvo, Volvos come from Sweden. You're buying a BMW or a Mercedes, it has strong ties with Germany, made in Germany, and, Germans do good things, usually. For food products, a lot of times they make health claims. They claim to be organic. And they'll make certain health claims within the boundaries of what the FDA will allow. Sort of on that tangent, did you know that there's 3 distinct FDA classifications for soap? Yeah, you'd be surprised. It's not, you can't just say, oh yeah, hey FDA, I want to make soap. It's like, oh, do I want to make soap with health benefits? Do I want to make soap for cosmetic purposes, or do I just want to make soap? And you actually have to tell them. And they want to know everything that's in it too. But yeah, I mean, health benefits are a huge deal for people that are buying food. They don't want to buy things with, I guess, extra hormones and pesticides and all these things in their product. And products that that are conscientious in these areas, they make a big deal about this on their packaging because they know that it's something that people pay attention to. Organizational associations like the American Heart Association, Cheerios, make a big deal about this on their box. That's a great example. And finally, environmental and animal friendliness. Again, pretty much any product that is any way remotely green or partially recycled, even 1%, say it on the box with as big of a font as they probably can get away with. Because these things are important to people. People make purchasing decisions based on these attributes. And all of these support uniqueness. They form, much like Captain Planet, the superhero of uniqueness for the brand in the customer's mind. And this is what differentiates that brand from the other brands in the marketplace. And whether or not the brand is actually innovative or not innovative is sort of less important. I mean, that's sort of a supporting feature. But it's really all these other things like quality and awareness and loyalty and associations that make a brand stand out for people depending on what their priorities are. So there's lots of different ways to go about building your brand. We have print and outdoor, which are fine. If you want to plaster your name all over billboards on the freeway that people may or may not be paying attention to, and in magazines that people may or may not be buying in an era when everybody uses the internet. We have TV and radio. TV and radio are, again, they're traditional. They have worked very well in the past. There is still a lot of TV and radio spending going on for 30-second spots, radio spots, what have you. But I think what is really the future here, in a lot of ways, is embedded advertising or product placement or brand partnerships, as they're also called. And we can see there that is the Morning Joe TV show on NBC, sponsored by Starbucks. And can you guess what they're drinking on Morning Joe on MSNBC? Starbucks. And they're not shy about it either. And so here's an example of exactly what I'm talking about.
A toast to your first and last day on the job. Yeah. About that. Dude, I told you, don't worry about it. It's not the first time I've been suspended. That's not it. John, you find another job. You got all that training.
Training. Covert reconnaissance. Close quarter hand-to-hand combat. Demolition. Now I go and get fired from some bullshit security job. Sorry. I don't know what to do.
Tim. Or as he liked to be called, Johnny Whiplash.
So what's the plan? Where are we going?
Well, no faith.
I have faith. I just need to know if I'm still in the loop.
So there you go. Once you're paying attention to it, it really is sort of shameless, isn't it? There's a lot of reasons why product placement works. If you're paying attention to it, you notice it. But if you're just sitting there watching The Marine on a Friday night by yourself on the couch, drinking Miller Genuine Draft for no particular reason, you may not pick it up. It might be a little bit more subconscious because you're paying attention to muscled dudes punching each other. But it works because it doesn't break the narrative of the movie. There's not a break like traditional 30-second commercials when the programming stops and someone trots out a carton beer doesn't come in a carton, I apologize. Someone trots out a six-pack or a case or what have you of beer and starts trying to sell it to you. No, it's just there in the movie. It's part of the experience, and it's in the same voice of the movie. So the star of the movie is holding it up and talking about it, or his friend is, or whatever, and it's just part of what's going on. It's written along with everything else that's going on, and so because it doesn't draw that much of attention to itself, you're more accepting to it as part of the experience, and you just sort of go along with it. And the third thing is there's a captive audience there. People aren't getting up and like going to the bathroom or making a sandwich or going to the concession stand to go get, more jujubes or whatever they get at the movies these days. People are sitting there. They're watching the entire thing because it's entertaining. Here we have an example of a really good product integration, which was Ford in Casino Royale. Many of you may or may not be familiar with the fact that Ford at one point owned Aston Martin and Land Rover, as well as its domestic products, Ford, Lincoln, Mercury, and so on. And so they did this brand partnership with Casino Royale, and it was Ford products pretty much all the way through. Bond was driving the Aston Martin. Other people were driving regular Fords. Some people were driving Land Rovers. But it wasn't really something that was obvious. It wasn't really something that people picked up on as, breaking out of the mold of what was typical for James Bond. People did have a sort of a complaint when they switched him over to Stoli because Bond wouldn't drink a Russian vodka. I mean, what the hell? Who's writing this? This is nonsense. There were many, many upset fans on the Bond message boards, I can tell you that. And the data shows that this sort of thing works. Placements for engaging programs were recognized by 43% more viewers than traditional advertising. Brand recognition is up 29% for shows that people are enjoying. This was pretty effective during The Wire. I don't know how many of you watched that show, but they had placements for 7-Eleven. They had placements for Dunkin' Donuts. And then they also had placements for this brand of clothing called Run Clothing. And that had a great sales increase with the integration that they had in The Wire, because it wasn't just one character that was wearing it. It wasn't just Avon Barksdale or any of the other guys. It was just consistently through several seasons of the show. And the third thing here is 57.5% of viewers recognize the brand when they also saw it later in a commercial. So they've already heard of it before they saw the commercial, and so that just increased the effectiveness of the regular commercial. Well and beyond what sort of recall or recognition they would have had with just the plain commercial. And so this is, I think, the direction that things are going. With the advent of things like on-demand programming and Netflix, we're really seeing the death of the 30-second TV spot. I mean, TV stations are sort of hedging themselves and allowing 15-second spots now, which I think is a little bit too short. But, I mean, ultimately what you're really looking at is people are going to be programming their own entertainment. They're going to be deciding what they want to watch. And when you get a TV show on Netflix, there's no commercials in that because it's, a box DVD set of, Breaking Bad or Star Trek The Next Generation or whatever. The commercials are cut out. If you're doing on demand, you have fast forward. People are just going to skip through that. Again, in movies, Iron Man's making the oh yeah face because Iron Man had 14 brand partners, if you can believe it. Which sounds ridiculous, but the only one that most people can pick out for Iron Man is usually Audi because that was the most obvious. But they had 7-Eleven, they had Burger King, they had so many integrations there that were just sort of under the radar. And it's an interesting exercise to sort of sit through that movie and try and pick them all out and see if you can. because it actually is a really, really good movie. It's really well done. The story is really good. The effects are really good. And you don't walk away from it thinking, wow, I was just advertised by 14 different companies. You think, wow, that was really awesome when he exploded the tank with the rockets out of his wrist and then flew away. And then it blew up. Sports, speaking of blowing up, we have NASCAR, which I think really gets they get the picture, and they've sort of gotten the picture for a while. It's all branding all the time, everywhere, on everything and everybody. Welcome to the future of your television experience. Professional soccer, similar. Emirates Airlines or AIG or, any of these brands might stick out for you if you watch professional soccer. Goal. I think if only they could figure out a way to get this roped into C-SPAN, I think the Bill Hicks quote is apropos that politicians should, of course, wear jumpsuits, with appropriately sized logotypes of all of their campaign contributors. Things would just come full circle, and it would just mesh so nicely. It would be like NASCAR, but really, even more boring. And so here we have examples that you may or may not have seen in traditional television. In the upper left-hand corner, we have a Subway brand integration with the show Chuck. This one, I have to say, was a little bit goofy. The guy brings out the sandwich and then does sort of like a cheesy hand model interaction with it, which I guess works because it's sort of a comedy show because it's sort of funny some of the time. 30 Rock did a much more interesting take on brand integration. They did a whole bit on Snapple and whether or not they were going to do a brand integration with Snapple on their fictional TV show on their TV show. And, of course, after this scene where they're all drinking Snapple in the boardroom, they go to the elevator and a man in a Snapple costume steps out of the elevator asking for HR. Because, that happens. I don't know where you work, but it happens where I work all the time. And then, just really more casual placements in shows like Smallville, where, somebody will just toss something onto a seat and it'll just have the logo there. They won't talk about it. They won't mention it. It'll just be there, and you'll see it, and you won't really realize it. But you'll make the association in your mind between, Lana Lang and wearing AccuView contact lenses. And that might pop up later when you're at the store. And this example, I think it speaks for itself, but product placement in your CAPTCHAs. So many of you may be familiar with CAPTCHAs, which are those scrambled up words or letters that you have to type in when you're interacting with a website to prove that you're a human being. Well, now they can advertise to you at the same time. Isn't that exciting? There's this company called Solve Media, and this is all they do, which is shoving advertisements and shoving products into that CAPTCHA while you're trying to check out of whatever thing or sign up for whatever free email service or what have you. And so in this case, you would type in the phrase, the all-new Chevy Sonic, because you really wanted to know about that Chevy Sonic, and now your brain knows about it, whether you like it or not.
Please welcome the owner of Seasons Eatings, Pete Schweddy.
Hi, Pete. Welcome. How are you?
Welcome, Pete.
We like the name of your store.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Now, did I pronounce your name correctly?
You sure did. Pete Schweddy.
Well, Pete, Terry and I have been looking forward to having you on the show because we know you're the master of all kinds of Christmas goodies. Tell us about them.
Well, there are lots of great treats at this time of year. Zucchini bread, fruitcake. But the thing that I most like to bring out at this time of the year are my balls.
Balls. Tell us about your balls, Pete.
Well, over at Seasons Eatings, we have balls for every taste. Popcorn balls, cheese balls, rum balls, you name it.
Pete Schweddy and his Schweddy balls. A delicious, delicious treat. So, why did I show that? Well, I showed that because, believe it or not, this summer, Ben & Jerry's made Schweddy Balls ice cream. It is a delicious vanilla ice cream with a hint of rum, and it has fudge and malted balls in it. I have to say, I tried these Schweddy balls, and you know they weren't that bad. Then again, I've eaten a whole skinned raccoon, so you know, you might want to try it for yourself, just a little bit. But this was a serious thing. They came out with this, and it's all based on this 5-minute SNL sketch that you saw a clip of, which is, you know, you'd think is would people really buy this product? I mean, really? Would they? And the answer is yes. Yes, they do.
I love Cheesy Puffs, you love Cheesy Puffs. If we're the Cheesy Puffs, we'd be lame. I'm talking Night Court in its 5th season, lame.
Cheesy Poofs. Do you want some Cheesy Poofs? Now? After seeing that? Maybe? A little bit? How about a lot? So this is another product that came out, again, this summer. And this was a partnership with South Park Studios and Frito-Lay Corporation that make fabulous Cheeto, Frito, other Edo-type products. They did Cheesy Poofs. And again, they were, I have to say, they were quite good. They did a good job making that cheese poofy for your taste buds. I will say that chopsticks with Cheesy Poofs are an amazing invention, and you should always use them so that your hands aren't a bright orange. But this product did really well. And again, also this summer, we had Nike doing the McFly shoes from Back to the Future 2. Light up and everything, because it's 2011 and shoes should light up because it's the future. And this is what my company does. My company does defictionalized products from TV and movies. So we've done Stay Puft Marshmallows from Ghostbusters. We've done Sex Panther Cologne from Anchorman. I'm wearing it right now, actually. It does not smell like a diaper filled with Indian food or a turd covered in burnt hair, but it is extremely flammable, which means that there's all sorts of really interesting shipping restrictions. And I actually recently had a bottle confiscated at LAX because the TSA said it was not okay. And I'm like, it's cologne. I'm wearing it right now. What? They're like, you know, they also confiscated. I had this meat tenderizer in the shape of brass knuckles, and they didn't like that either. Oh, come on. Like, who's going to take over an airplane with a meat tenderizer shaped like brass knuckles? Me? No.
This here's the life.
You got that right. Hey, bartender, hit me again.
You boys got something for me to drink?
This blood's for you.
And there you have it, True Blood. Many of you have maybe seen the television show True Blood on HBO. This is another one of our products, the True Blood beverage, based on the drink from the show. The original product was a 14-ounce glass bottle, completely custom from scratch with a foil label, and it weighed 2 pounds. So a 4-pack weighed 8 pounds, which is excellent if you need to, murder somebody. The PET bottle, which we just came out with this year, is 19 ounces, and it's the same formula. It's a lot lighter to ship, but really, what does this product show? This product is an excellent example that with the right branding and the right brand integration, in this case, defictionalization, you can create something that competes pretty well with established brands. So the blue line you see here is Jones Soda. The red line is True Blood. And Jones Soda's been around for, at the time that we came out with it, 4 years. And they were a pretty popular independent soda company. They had sponsorships with the Seattle Seahawks. They did all sorts of stuff. True Blood is getting the same search volume. It's people are just as aware of it out of nowhere because of this partnership with this television show and this integration in the TV show. And that's, that really says a lot, and that points to the direction that we're going with things. Because if you can kickstart something like that, then when we're looking ahead at what Amazon and Facebook and Apple and Google are doing, the solution and the answer becomes very clear. And what are all these companies doing? They're all building out payment systems. People talk a lot about, the keynote yesterday, it was that Facebook is one of the CIA's most successful surveillance programs. Well, knowing what you're doing all day and what you're having for breakfast and, what your cat looks like, that's all well and good. But what Facebook is really about is payments. Just like Google has Google Checkout, Amazon has Amazon Payments, and Apple has built out functionality for you to buy many things via iTunes payments on your phone or other device, or via your desktop. And that's what all of these companies are going to be battling over, is your wallet. And this is important. It's extremely important to understand, and it's extremely important to pay attention to, because right now, when a customer searches for something online, they see an advertisement, maybe they click on it, maybe they don't. If they click on it, they end up on the site that it points to. Then what happens? Maybe they try and get off it real quick, but as far as the person running the banners, they don't care. They already got paid. From an advertiser's point of view, you care very much because you want customers. You don't want someone to just click onto your thing, take money out of your ad budget, and then go look at cat videos on YouTube. You want them to buy something. And so this convergence that we have going on with payments, where all of these companies are building out payment systems, is super important, because what happens is that they're able to track the customer from discovery to clicking through to adding to your cart to checking out and paying. And that is amazing. It might sound a little bit like a privacy invasion, but it's actually really, really, really good for advertisers, because they're no longer just pissing money away into the wind and hoping that some of it flies back in their face. Because all of this becomes trackable, and they can track you from start to finish in the entire transaction, the amount spent on advertising and the amount of return gained on that becomes a known quantity. And ad spending becomes a lot more precise. It becomes basically a direct spend. And if you look at the growth of online retail, we see that it's only increasing. And so it's really the case where people are shopping more and more online. I don't know how many of you have used Amazon's Prime service, but you find yourself doing things like, buying detergent on Amazon because you don't want to go to the store. And so they ship it from Missouri. That's the appropriate way to say Missouri, right? Missouri? So they ship you detergent from Missouri, and it arrives at your house, and you didn't have to pay for shipping. And that is totally okay. That seems like a normal, routine thing. And, you'll do all sorts of transactions like this, like once you get in the routine of it. And just without thinking, just because, well, it's easier to just sit there and type in 3 things than drive all the way to the store, find it in the store, check out from the store, and then come home. And it's this sort of convenience that I think people are really grasping onto. And so what we end up with is a divergence, a really, really strong divergence between branded products and generic products. Because if you're on Amazon, you're probably searching by price for a lot of things. Like if you need a replacement USB cable for your computer, you don't care what the brand of that computer cable is. You really don't. And so you're going to buy the one that costs $2. You're not going to spend $29 for a 3-foot USB cable. But if you went to Best Buy, you would pay $29 for a 3-foot USB cables. Heck, they might even convince you to buy the $49 one or the $69 one by Monster because it's shinier and has gold tips. Because better connectivity really makes a difference for digital communication. It doesn't. So we have this divergence between branded products and generic products. A great example of this is Apple's computer sales. The average selling price for Macintoshes is almost $1,300. Their phones and iPads, again, outpacing Windows PC average pricing, which is down to $491. And so all these companies, Dell, Toshiba, Fujitsu, that nobody ever buys computers from anymore, apparently, they're having to compete on price. And it is a race to the bottom when you start competing on price. And you end up having to try and make your profit through selling massive amounts of volume instead of selling a lot fewer units and making your profit on having a much higher margin. And so when you're able to make your profit through margin, it's a lot less, you have a lot less customers to deal with. It's a lot less hectic because you're moving much less product. And it's just a better experience all around for everybody because you're probably selling something quality. It's not some $2 cheapo thing that is going to break or fall apart or what have you. You're not having to cut corners. It's just better all around for everybody. And here's where we end up. With all of this, if you've done your branding and you're selling a premium branded product, the internet basically becomes a vending machine for customers as an advertiser. You're able to directly make the connection between people discovering your advertising or discovering your product online, clicking through to your website, and making a purchase. And because that link is a known quantity, you're able to attach a price tag to it, and your online marketing spend basically becomes an affiliate cost. So you're not going to be paying, 25 cents a click-through anymore. You're going to be paying probably more than that because there's a lot more data involved. But you're going to know for sure that you put in X dollars, you're going to get X divided by whatever dollars back. It's known. That's it. Any questions? The pricing model for placement in movies. There's actually whole companies that do this. There's a company called Media Placement, and this is all they do, is product placement in TV and movies. Hollywood is a strange beast in that they don't really have fixed prices for things. Everything is like this used car salesman negotiation where they're trying to get the most money out of you and you're trying to pay them the least money possible. And so that's why you end up with ridiculous things like Jessica Simpson had a music video with this really, really inconsequential placement of an HP product, and they paid $200,000 for that. And it was like literally on the screen for like a fraction of a second. And you just wonder who approved this, because this is ridiculous. But I mean, it goes up into the millions. I mean, we have the brand integration with Transformers with GM, which, I mean, that would be fantastic if GM all of a sudden started selling futuristic space robots instead of the cars that they're actually selling. That was, millions and millions and millions of dollars. I think it was like 30 million or 40 million.
How did you get into the deficionalized product?
It started as a joke. So the first product we did was Brondo, the thirst mutilator from Idiocracy. And I was working in advertising at the time, and I thought that it would be really funny to make it. And so I just sort of jumped in and decided to start doing it. And it's sort of a weird thing to just sort of start doing because you're sort of learning everything at once. You're learning, the beverage market. You're learning how licensing works. You're learning, just sort of boots on the ground advertising stuff. Like we sponsored a motocross team and had like a big ass truck and motorbikes and all sorts of nonsense. You're learning like 10 different things at once, and everything's going like a million miles an hour. But yeah, it started as, hey, wouldn't it be funny if, and then it somehow became reality 9 months later with hundreds of thousands of dollars down the toilet. I guess the joke's on me.
Yeah, so this whole deficionalized branding and stuff, are you doing this to offer the company saying here's an alternative thing? Or let me take this back. Do you look at the Onion for influence or something? Because they might set up a case scenario and you introduce like a fake iPhone and you jump on it and say, okay, let me actually try to recreate that whole branding for that fake iPhone that the Onion put out, and then try to flip it back to the company just as much as someone doing a remix of music and then trying to flip it back to the people who own the publishing or something like that. Or you just doing
So the question is, do you? Oh, well, typically the way it works is you identify the product that you want to do, and then you approach the company that owns the IP, and then you license the material from them, and pay them a guarantee, and then it's on you to create the product and sell it and market it and do all that work, and then you pay them a royalty. Yeah, isn't that funny? Yeah, having to pay for intellectual property. That's, it's a unique concept. Some people do it. Dr. Dre doesn't like to. He got sued for using the THX Deep Note on his Chronic 2001 album. It's a good album. You should buy it. Notice I said buy and not download. For free. Yeah, that's typically the way that it works. Even if it's something small, Ben and Jerry's didn't pay Saturday Night Live for sweaty balls because I guess they felt like they didn't need to. Yes.
Did any of these defictionalized products sort of separated themselves from the original reference? I mean, have you seen a product sort of stand on its own? It's not sort of cult fan people drinking it. Knowingly, it's one of these products turn into something that exists in and of itself without sort of the original show or movie or whatever being back to the consumer's mind.
Sure. Many of you might have stayed in a Holiday Inn. Can you even identify what movie that came from?
Holiday Inn.
Yeah. But you don't make the connection. You are just looking at it as a place to stay, and I mean.
License that from the film producers?
They didn't.
Speaking just as trademark attorney here for a second, I don't think they have to. But,
No, they didn't, and they wouldn't have to, because it's a completely different category. But I mean, I think that's a really good example of something that has sort of stepped away from its source and sort of moved on. Bates Motel would maybe not be such a popular choice because people don't like getting axe murdered. I'm sorry, he used a butcher knife, not an axe. Yes?
What are your thoughts on product placement within music? Mostly here in the hip-hop rap genre, but I just want to know your thoughts on it.
Are you kidding? They do that for free. Yeah. Oh, come on. You.
Well, I think some of the lower tier artists do, but I think maybe some of your top 5.
Really? That's a really interesting topic of conversation. I'd like to read about that more. I never would have thought that rap artists would sell out. I thought they were all about artistic integrity. I'm flummoxed, you could say. But no, Rick Ross totally paid for that white on white 740. In back?
Yeah, Peter, just curious, what's the timeline that you've seen on some of these kind of products that you've been releasing and the others in the marketplace in terms of kind of like the novelty of them? Does it wear off at a certain point in time? When the show ends, does it still continue to go? Or where do you see that kind of inflection point start to dip?
Well, so the Cheesy Poofs were a limited time thing, and that was by design. They just put them out as, it was basically a marketing thing for them. But, Sex Panther has been selling for 3.5 years now, and that does extremely well, and it continues to do well for some ungodly reason. Honestly, I think people just like the way that it smells and continue to buy it because of that, beyond the name. And I think that by creating a quality product like that, behind a name that people know, I think that's what creates the staying power. You're not just trading on the name and trying to make a quick buck, like every licensed Star Trek video game that's ever been made. I know, it's a shame. No, you're actually creating something that people are going to be happy that they paid money for, and hopefully buy again.
Doesn't that reflect back to the foundation of your branding as you talked about, like set aside?
It does. It does actually, and yeah, it's loyalty. It's awareness. Yeah. Bringing it full circle. Thank you.
Are you setting up for a Ghostbusters remake or Ghostbusters sequel? Are you like positioning your product line for marshmallows, contingency, if that gets made?
You think? That movie's been rumored for a while, and that's actually why we did the product. Same with Sex Panther. There's a rumored Anchorman sequel that may or may not be happening. So having the product out ahead of time is a really good strategy. We have a re-up on the marshmallows coming soon, so it'll be interesting to see if they finally got Bill Murray under contract because he's happy with the script and a movie is actually happening. Whether or not the guarantee will go up a significant amount. Because that's another thing is catalog movies are a lot less expensive to do than current or new movies.